Lord Chancellor and Secretary of State for Justice, Alex Chalk, is here. Let's pick up with that story to start with, should we? Reports of a poppy seller, 78, being punched.
It's unimaginable. It's unthinkable. I mean, I don't know the details of what happened, but it just seems extraordinary. And as a country, I think we are, by and large, so good at coming together to remember our war dead. But to think of something like that happening, as I say, it's unimaginable. And I think most British people watching this will say, how horrific. And I just hope something like that would never happen again.
Should the march go ahead?
Well, look, the police have considered this with care, and as you know, they're independent. It's for them to weigh up.
What's your personal view?
Well, my view is people should listen to what the police have said, and I think it shouldn't. And I absolutely recognise that there are competing rights to protest, and that's part of what makes us a free and fair country. But this time of year is so important, where we do come together once in a year to remember those who've made the ultimate sacrifice, but where the police as well are saying that there is a risk of public disorder. It seems to me that should be given very, very great weight.
Suella Braverman saying that sleeping rough in a tent is a lifestyle choice. Your boss refused to back her yesterday, declined rather than refused, I should say. One of your colleagues on the programme yesterday says she wouldn't use those words. Would you?
No, I wouldn't. I would take a different approach. So, look, it is the case, of course, and I know this from my constituency in Cheltenham, that there will be some people who decline support from the local council, but there's often a very significant context, which will be a mental health issue, a substance abuse problem, relationship breakdown, a loss of a job, and so on. And so I do think that needs to be weighed in the balance. But the central point she's making on this business to do with the tents, it is absolutely correct that we shouldn't do anything which entrenches people's rough sleeping. Because if you do that, effectively, you're condemning and consigning people to poorer health outcomes, and I'm afraid in some cases even shorter life expectancy. So we do have to be kind. You sometimes have to be robust, and you sometimes have to be, really quite firm about it.
So what are we saying here? She just put it badly.
Look, I think she was writing on Twitter, and I actually had a chat with her about it. I don't think she disagrees with anything that I'm saying now, namely that there is a context. But I do think, when we're talking about choices, it's important to understand the context of those choices, because often of the crisis that people are in.
It's not a lifestyle choice.
It's about, well, it's difficult to see that it's always an entirely informed choice, given that sometimes people are wrestling with some appalling situations in their lives. And look, we should be trying to help individuals like that, which is why we're putting £2 billion into supporting people get off the streets. That's a humane and sensible thing to do. But sometimes you have to be robust about it.
OK, just wanted to ask one other domestic question, if I may. And this is the story that was in the papers at the weekend about a woman who said that she had been raped by a Conservative MP. I know what you're going to say. You're going to say you can't talk about it because it's a live case at the moment. But do you think that the party has supported her sufficiently?
The only reason I'm hesitating a little bit because I don't know the details of that specific case.
But if somebody says I've been raped by an MP...
So, look, of course, and this is something that I care passionately about, violence against women and girls, and resolving that and ensuring that people feel supported. So there are so many things now, compared to when I was prosecuting these offences, which have improved if you report them to the police. So, for example, there's a victims' code, which is much, much clearer about the entitlements that you have. There's a 24/7 rape support helpline. There are independent sexual violence advisors. There are rape and sexual assault centres. So all I'm saying is that I hope to get this message across to your listeners is that if there was one of your listeners who was a victim of a rape, heaven forbid, that there is support available out there if she can
So the party doesn't need to worry about it?
No, of course. What I'm saying is I don't know the precise details of what she reported, who she reported it to, whether the police were reported at the same time. I literally know no more about it than you do, which is my only reason for hesitation. But what I want to, if I can just provide some reassurance, is that the authorities are there to provide much more coherent and compendious support than existed in the past, and I hope people will avail themselves of that.
OK, talk to me about the King's speech. It's
Yes.
the first one later on today. Which one piece of legislation would you like to see go through, given that you're not going to get all of it through?
Well, we hope to
get...
That was a very good question. No, I didn't, but that's a great question. Well, look,
what's the answer?
Well, my bits, obviously, I'm very keen to get through. So we've got... I can't say the specific name because that's got to be announced, as you know, by the King. But we're doing some really important things to do with public protection, so that your viewers will know that we want to ensure that the most serious offenders those who committed the most appalling offences, murder where there has been rape preceding it, or issues of sadism. We want to ensure that they serve whole life orders, because your viewers would expect nothing less, that if they're given a life sentence, that life should mean life. That's really important for public protection. Second, to ensure that those who are convicted of rape, the point we were just discussing, should serve the whole of their sentence in custody. It's worth reflecting, in 2010, all rapists, bar the tiny minority who got life sentences, but the overwhelming majority of rapists had to be released at the halfway mark. So if somebody, heaven forbid, raped one of your relatives and was given a 10-year sentence, they walked out at 5 years. Now, we thought that wasn't right, and we want to build on the steps that we've taken.
So that's the one piece of legislation.
Well, but it's not. But there are various other measures. But all the stuff within criminal justice, and also requiring people to attend their sentence hearing. We think that's massively important. They can't be down like cowards in the cells, refusing to come up to the dock to face up to the consequences of their actions. And we're going to be introducing legislation to deliver that.
And we saw that with the little girl Olivia, didn't we?
Olivia Pratt-Corbell, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
talk to me about a story that we've got an exclusive here on Sky with our colleagues NBC. The Deputy Secretary General of Hezbollah suggested if Israel continues with their aggression, then Hezbollah will engage in a complete confrontation. What's the UK's view on that?
Well, our view, consistent with that of our allies, the United States and others, is that we do not want to see regional escalation. And that's why the United States has put assets in the region, why we, the United Kingdom, have put naval assets there as well. We want to send a powerful message that escalation would be a disaster, of course, for the region and innocent people there, but also a disaster for those who would escalate. So that deterrence is very important, and we hope that that is heeded.
Joe Biden's talking about a tactical pause. That's the latest that we're hearing, pressing Benjamin Netanyahu to agree to this tactical pause. No idea, tactical pause, humanitarian pause, ceasefire. What does it all mean?
Well,
surely it's just got to stop.
Well, look, you're absolutely right. Sometimes there can be a bit of semantics, but the central point about the tactical pause is that it is there to allow aid to get in and for British nationals, indeed, other people who require aid to get out. And that is massive. We think that's very important. The United States are supporting that, and we are foursquare behind it because, the suffering that's taking place is, of course, absolutely devastating. The difference between that and a ceasefire is if it is something more prolonged, that simply allows Hamas to rearm. And we know that, frankly, the only rate-limiting factor on Hamas's ambition to kill civilians is the number of bullets they've got. And so it's critically important that nothing is done which simply allows them to regroup, rearm, and then restart their murderous campaign.
So what is the difference between a tactical pause and a humanitarian pause?
I think tactical and humanitarian pauses are effectively the same species of the same thing, but they are as distinct from a fully fledged ceasefire. So that really is the material distinction. But look, the central point you make respectfully is an absolutely fair one. We want to see humanitarian pauses to allow that killing to stop, to ensure that people can get out, our British nationals can get out, that aid can get in, and that's something that the United States favours and the international community does as well. And
just a bit of housekeeping before I let you go. How many Brits have been allowed to leave Gaza? How many are still there? Well, look,
we think there are three British hostages who are there. In terms of the numbers who've been allowed to leave, about 100 have been able to leave. The precise numbers who are still there are still unclear. But it is worth reflecting, and I know you don't forget, but it's easy to forget, there are around 200 innocent people of all nationalities, principally Israeli, but including Brits, who've been snatched, entirely innocent people, whether they were at a music festival or whatever, who are now presumably in tunnels or otherwise hidden. And that must be causing appalling heartache for them, but also, of course, for their families. Indeed, we're speaking to 3 women whose children have been caught up in exactly that situation later on in the programme. For now, Minister, thank you very much indeed. Good luck today. It's going to be a busy one. Thank you.